Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am going to deal with a session that will be useful for the UG students, especially the first years. A paper on literary forms is prescribed to the first year BA English Literature students. The book preferred is A Background to the Study of English Literature by B.Prasad. So today's session will be on Unit 5, Section 3, Prose Essay. We'll see elaborately on the definitions as well as the different types of essays and essays. There are really no satisfactory or comprehensive definition for the term essay, but still we look up into certain definitions given by well-known writers. So let's begin with Dr. Johnson's definition. As he says, or as he defines, an essay is a loose sally of the mind or an irregular, indigested piece, not a regular or orderly performance. So as he says, an essay can never be regular or orderly. Let's see a definition of essay by the Oxford English Dictionary. So, as it says, an essay is a composition of moderate length on any particular subject or branch of a subject, originally implying want of finish, but now said of a composition more or less elaborate in style, though limited in range. And now comes another definition by SAINTSBURY. So, as he defines the term essay, it is a work of prose art, the after-dinner monologue of an interesting and well-informed man. So now we could guess that an essay should be quite interesting and well-informed. So, do you really think that an essay fit to these definitions? Not at all. So, not all these definitions fit everything that we accept as an essay. So, it is indeed quite difficult to find a formula for an essay. So, the term essay cannot be applied to everything we call as prose. For example, Locke's essay concerning human understanding can never be termed as an essay, or Pope's essay on criticism and essay on man too do not come under work of prose art. So we'll see what is Hugh Walker's definition. So according to him, apparently there is no subject from the stars to the dust heap and from the amoeba to the man which may not be dealt with an essay. So as he says, when it comes to the subject of an essay, it is quite varied or it is quite vast. It can sum up subjects from the stars to even the dust heap, or it can range from the subject on amoeba to man. And so there are quite a umpteen number of topics that can be put up in a category called as essay. So there are two types of essays. What are those? According to Hugh Walker, there are two types of essays. So he divides essays into two classes. The first one is essays par excellence, essays of the highest degree. And the next one is comparatively short or incomplete essays. So now, how do you term an essay to be incomplete? So an essay will be termed incomplete if the subject is treated only in an outline. So if you treat a subject only in an outline, you just can't term it to be complete. Or if only a branch of the greater theme is handled, or the theme may belong to any department of human thought, or those thoughts may be quite scientific or philosophic, or maybe they should have been expanded into treatises, or sometimes the historical or critical point of an incomplete history may make the essay or make an essay look incomplete. So these type of essays, in their looser sense, without completeness, do not strictly belong to a significant literary form, right? So, any best essays, or how are essays termed to be the best? So here we could see that Charles Lamb's essays are the best in English, and Montaigne's essays are the best in French. So how are they termed to be the best? So these essays under no circumstances expand into treatises. Of course, they are complete in themselves. So they are termed to be the best. So according to W.H.HUDSON, the true essay is quite personal or self-expressive, because treatises and dissertations are objective. They are not at all subjective. So, whereas an essay is subjective. No need for facts and doctrines from essays. So, a reader expects no facts or doctrine from essays, but they really intend to get connected with the thoughts of an appealing personality. So the readers are looking out for their individual accent, and they are not quite bothered about the essay's opinions expressed in the essay. So what they look out for is a thought of an appealing personality in the form of an essayist. Okay, so we'll see some of the best essays: Charles Lamb, Stevenson, G.K. Chesterton, Hilaire Belloc, Goldsmith, E.V. Lucas, A.G. Gardiner, and J.B. Priestley. So now comes the origin of an essay. So the origin of an essay has been attributed to the Roman writers Cicero and Seneca. So their epistles are more of essay than that of letters. Though written in the form of letters, they are in the type of an essay. As Francis Bacon says, Seneca's epistles and Lucilius are dispersed meditations conveyed in the form of epistles, and Plutarch's Moralia comes of the same category. They are collection of essays on moral subjects. And now comes Montaigne. So the French writer of the 16th century. So his volume of essays, that the term essay was employed for the first time. And the meaning of the word essay is attempt, to attempt. So Montaigne professes that he only attempts at the topics and doesn't deal exhaustively about the topics, and they were always from his own individual point of view. He tells the reader that his main concern is to portray or highlight himself, or in other words, an intimate personal essay. And obviously, he is indeed the father of the subjective or personal essay. The aphoristic essay. So now here Bacon gains the credit. So it was Bacon actually who transplanted essay into England. He was contrary to Montaigne, because Montaigne aimed at self-revelation, whereas Bacon attempted an objective or impersonal essay. His writings doesn't portray himself at all, though sometimes he highlights his preferences, like in his essays of gardens, only now and then, not every time. And he entertains the readers with counsels that are civil and moral. And these counsels are conveyed in short and crispy sentences, not too elaborate or complex. Well, we'll see about the observations of Dean Church about an essay. As he says, writers convey their thoughts without a preface, without a superfluous word, and they say it in brief, rapid sentences, and comes sentence after sentence like the strokes of a great hammer. So, as he observes, as Dean Church observes, the thoughts of an essayist comes sentence after sentence like the strokes of a great hammer that are quite poignant and striking. And now comes the character writers. Well, forms of character sketches in the so-called essays. So, during the earlier 17th century, essays took the form of character sketches. Essayists like Hall, Overbury, Earle, they were actually imitators of Greek philosopher Theophrastus and Roman Seneca. Theophrastus detailed studies of various types of personality through different characters, and Law Brier's characters appeared in 1668. And these essays, Hall, Overbury, and Earle, they highlighted pen pictures of various types of men and women. For example, the hypocrite, the affected traveler, the milkmaid. And they never resembled Baconian essay. And they resembled the writings of Sir Thomas Browne and Abraham Cowley. So the modern form was actually executed by Cowley through his essay Of Myself, and it was a beginning in the development of modern form of essay. So now comes the critical essay of the Restoration period. So Dryden was actually the one who introduced a new variety called the critical essay. And the form of such a category was that of Montaigne, and the theme was of literary criticism. Example, Dryden's prefaces and other miscellaneous prose writings. And the best known of Dryden's essays are Essay of Dramatic Poesy, which was written in dialogue form, and the preface to his fables was partly critical and partly a personal essay. So now comes the periodical and social essay. So with the rise of journalism during the beginning of the 18th century, there arose a special category of essays. What is that? The periodical and social essay. So essays started appearing in periodicals too. So Defoe's review set the fashion of the trend. The real spirit of essay began with Richard Steele and Joseph Addison. So Steele's Tatler was started in 1709, and Addison frequently contributed to Tatler, and it actually stopped after 2 years, and it was replaced with The Spectator on March 1711. Steele and Addison associated in the same periodical, and over 550 issues were published in Spectator, and they stopped in December 1712. So, to enliven morality with wit and to temper wit with morality. So, what are the intentions behind these essays published in periodicals? So, the moral intentions were behind it. Addison and Steele had clear moral intentions while writing the essays for the Spectator. These essays preaches against the vices of the age through the Spectator Club. At the same time, these essays never fail to amuse the readers. So, the essays are found to serve a distinct purpose. Let's see Sainsbury's explanation on that. The essays taught the 18th century how it should, and especially how it should not, behave in public places, from churches to theatres. what books it should like, and how it should like them, how it should treat its lovers, mistresses, husbands, wives, parents, and friends. So, for the very first time in history, the essay was employed to serve a distinctly social purpose. So, what are the other purposes of an essay? So, literary criticism and delineation of character are indeed the other purposes of an essay. The famous Sir Roger de Coverley, hope you all know this character. So, the famous Sir Roger de Coverley was actually a joint creation of Addison and Steele. And this character figured in both the Tatler and the Spectator. It was indeed a lively sketch of the country gentleman. So now comes Jonathan Swift, Dr. Johnson, and Oliver Goldsmith. So these are none other than the contemporaries of Addison and Steele. Jonathan Swift was a pamphleteer, and Dr. Johnson's essays appear in the Rambler and in the Idler. So Oliver Goldsmith's Citizen of the World was actually a series of letters on English life by an imaginary Chinese visitor, and it was published in the newspaper labeled The Public Ledger. It was also published in the Bee, the British magazine, and other periodicals. So now comes the reviewers. So periodicals gave place to the critical journal called the Review. So it had little concern to social and personal topics, the main content being literary and other criticisms. So the best known of the reviewers are the Edinburgh and the Quarterly. So the Edinburgh Reviewer belonged to the Whig organ, and it was edited by Francis Jeffrey. The Quarterly Reviewer belonged to the Tory organ, edited by William Gifford, and it represents both two great parties, and the contributors being Southey, Scott, Hazlitt, Macaulay, and Carlyle. So serious or heated discussion on politics, religion, philosophy were embedded in these periodicals, and they were too strict in reviewing. So these critical journals were quite strict in reviewing, and serious discussions on politics, religion, and philosophy was published therewith. So the Edinburgh actually quite critically or seriously attacked the poems of Wordsworth, and the Quarterly maltreated kids so cruelly and totally, right? So the magazines. So the magazines are creative, critical, informative, entertaining. So every kind of composition made up the magazine. Examples are Blackwood's magazine, Fraser's magazine, the London magazine, and these magazines popularized the essay. The tradition of critical essay carried on in the Victorian age by Matthew Arnold, Walter Pater, John Morley, and Leslie Stephen, including J.A. Symonds and others. So the tradition of critical essay was carried on. And Lamb's Essays of Elia was published in the London magazine, and groups including Coleridge, Thackeray, and Carlyle contributed to the Fraser's magazine. So the personal essay. So whom do you think is the leader and master of personal or subjective essay? That is none other than Charles Lamb. So the 19th century notable writers revealed and exploited their personality through their essays. And Charles Lamb's Essays of Elia was actually a classical example of this model. It was a blend of autobiography, erudition, fancy, humor, and sentiment. And obviously, he is indeed the leader and master of personal or subjective essay. Now let's see about E.V. Lucas' definition of subjective or personal essay. Right? So according to him, a good essay is more than a novel, a poem, a play, or a treatise. And it is a personality translated into print. Rightly said, isn't it? Between the lines must gleam attractive features or we remain cold. So other writers of the subjective essay includes Leigh Hunt, Hazlitt, Thackeray, De Quincey, and R.L. Stevenson. So now comes the recent trends. So articles of today. So we get numerous articles, essays in the form of articles today in daily newspapers and weekly and monthly periodicals. Today's articles can equally be called essays except for a rough generalization. If not, they too can be termed as essays, right? Because an essay is more literary in style and more personal than an article. So here is a list of modern objective critics. Please take a good note of it. And now comes some of the modern subjective critics like G.K. Chesterton, E.V. Lucas, A.J. Gardiner, Robert Lind, Hilaire Belloc, Sir Max Beerbohm, and J.B. Priestley. So with this, the term essay is very elaborately presented. Hope you all understood the different concepts and types of essays. And with this, I'm signing off today. And those who haven't subscribed it, do subscribe. Thank you.